Hello and welcome everyone to this workshop hosted by the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where in the globe you are. And it's a pleasure being here with you today. This workshop is called Analytics for Non-Analytics and is hosted in partnership with Altair. The workshop will be divided in 2-day sessions of 2 hours each. And today is the first session. The second one will take place this Thursday, October 7th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, so the same time as we are here today. Before we start and before I introduce you our brilliant speaker, I just want to remind you that this session will be recorded and the presentations will be shared among the attendees. So that way you will be able to share this session with other colleagues that might be interested in the matter. Also, we will host this workshop in our YouTube channel. So I encourage you to visit our website, which is SpainUSChamber.com, and visit our YouTube channel where you will be able to find many other interesting webinars that we hosted in the last 2 years. Finally, for those of you that are in the South Florida area, I would like just to remind you that our annual gala will take place on November 5th, and we are now closing our registration period for it. This year, it will be limited to 300 attendees. So if you are planning to attend our gala, please reserve your table as soon as possible. And finally, just a reminder that for those of you that are interested in sports, we are hosting also a paddle tournament on October 16th. You can also register in our website. And now coming down to our topic of today, the Analytics for Non-Analytics workshop follows a case-by-case based hands-on approach with the aim of giving an overview of the concepts, tools, profiles, and practical applications of machine learning and its integration with business decision-making process. This will allow managers and directors to understand the trends and best practices to develop the analytics roadmap within their organizations. We will see several topics in these 2 days, like Enterprise Analytical Management, analytical profiles, common machine learning problems, practical cases, and tools, languages, and platforms. Altair is a consulting boutique that masters in assembling strategic vision, analytical skills, and business transformation experience to deliver enterprise analytical management. And today we are very fortunate to have with us Juan Carlos Martinez, which is an entrepreneur and strategic analytical consultant who is the founder and president of Altair for the past 19 years. Mr. Martinez inspires and guides senior management on enterprise analytical transformation in a wide range of industries, including automotive, banking and insurance, energy and retail. Mr. Martinez received his MBA from IESE, Barcelona, and a Master in Science in Chemical Engineering from the University of Barcelona. So without further ado, welcome Juan Carlos, and thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos. Thank you very much to everybody attending this first session of this seminar entitled Analytics for Non-Analytics. I'm going to start with the first session. We have, yeah.
I'll leave you and we will address all the questions at the end of the session. Anyone that would like to send your questions, please do it through your control panel on the questions tab, and we will address all of them at the end. See you later, Juan Carlos. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juan Carlos. Thank you very much. So it's a pleasure to be here today with this event organized by the Spain-US Chamber of Commerce, Miami. And also, it's a pleasure for my firm just to be here sponsoring as well this seminar entitled Analytics for Non-Analytics. So, as I said, welcome to everybody just joining right now this first session, which is all about, we are going to try to cover a very important topic, which is a hot topic in any CEO agenda today, in any industry, in any company size, which is how to extract, how to get all the value at stake, just applying analytics and analytics foundation along the value chain of my business. So that's the main purpose of this first session today. Is I plan to cover the topic, which is Enterprise Analytical Management. So Enterprise Analytical Management is all the tools, policies, strategies, processes, organization, all the things that you are doing, or you can make inside your company to be what we call the analytical company. What is an analytical company? The analytical company is that company that has extracted all value at stake when talking about analytics, how to transform all the value applying analytics along the value chain of the business. So first of all, let me start just with the content of the presentation. We plan to start with lessons learned from evolution of the species. I would say evolution of the universe. And one of you, maybe he's asking himself, well, what is this all about? Why this speaker is starting with the evolution of the universe and the evolution of the species? It's very simple, because we have several reasons for that. The first one is that the nature is inspiring several mathematical models. So we learn a lot from the nature, trying to understand what are the mechanisms, what are the dynamics of the nature. We can learn a lot, and we can apply these lessons learned to other systems that we want to describe or want to apply this analytical approach. So, for example, we have several algorithms that takes the name from the nature, like neural networks, genetic algorithms, dynamics of ecosystems. So we have several examples of explanations that we try to learn from the nature. So that's the reason why I started with this first slide, which is the evolution of the universe. And the first thing that I would like to share with you is that since the creation of the universe, we have passed some 13.8 billion years. So it's a huge, a tremendous period of time. That means that the universe has an experience compared with our experience, that our experience is less than a blink of an eye. So we have a lot of things to learn from the universe, from this evolution that we can apply to the business environment, to the systems of the different enterprises competing in the different sectors. Why is that? So if we take a look at the origin and the evolution of the species, we've seen that the rule is that we have periods of equilibrium where nothing happened, let's say it that way. And then suddenly we have a disruption. Some external forces, internal forces are appearing, are applicable to the system. And then you have a rapid decline of the existing species. And then what is very, very important, you have another sources, another ways to interpret the life. And then you have this rapid mass speciation. And then this is something that is cyclical. And then you find this in different periods of the evolution of the species on Earth. So you have to take into consideration that the Earth was created 4.5 billion years ago, and the first cell on Earth appeared 3.8 billion years ago. So But since then, all these dynamics of this evolution of the different species was creating different periods of equilibrium combining with this disruption. And you can see that in the, let's say, since the beginning of the Earth, we have been experiencing some 10 cycles of disruption. Like, for example, 2 billion years ago, where we have this, the period of the Great Oxidation event. This was clearly when you had all these bacteria, the cyanobacteria, and they were creating some waste, and this waste in that case was oxygen that was free to the atmosphere, creating this oxygen atmosphere. But this waste just killed these bacteria and created new sources of life. So this is a thing that is repeating, as I said, 10 times, 10 big times in the evolution of the species on Earth. This is very, very important because you have this cycle, you have that the time between two events is shortening, and also you have this, as I said, this external driving forces that is changing the way the life is on Earth in every time of the history of Earth. So we have, or we can establish this parallelism with what is happening right now in the economy. So, and if you analyze the cycle of the economy, you have the same principles. You can apply this evolutionary enterprise extinction events. So right now, we are under a kind of a period with this disruption in the economy, disruption in the market, because right now we are seeing external driving forces. We are seeing that shortening changes in cycles of the economy, and also some acceleration on the change on the economy. You have, for example, as a kind of some data to share with you, that since 2000, year 2000, 52% of the Fortune 500 have been either acquired or bankrupt. The digital disruption will be making disappear 40% of Fortune 500 firms in the next 10 years, according to a survey to C-level executives. You have that the IT sector has grown from 50 billion in the years in the 80s to 3.8 trillion in 2018, and expected to go to 4.5 trillion in 2022, just next year. And you have this speciation of new players in the marketplace. No matter the size of the company, you have big players, very well known, all of them, but also combining with different small species like fintechs and other startups that are appearing in all the sectors of the economic. So, what are these driving forces that are right now acting on the marketplace? We have at least four of them that are making possible, that are enabling the digital and the analytical transformation of the companies. We have on one side the big data. You know that the sources of data are increasingly every day by geometric models. So they are increasing and increasing every single day, every single minute. You have also the Internet of Things. Every device, every chip that you have connected to the website, to the internet, can be a source of a new amount of data. You have cloud computing, which is very enabled in that case, because you have the capacity, almost infinite capacity of storing data and to make calculations with the data. And you have something that is taking advantage of all the other three, which is artificial intelligence. The way we manage the data, the way we put together the data just to make decisions. Because at the end of the day, and as you will see along this presentation. Maybe the center of the universe of this revolution of the analytics is not maybe it's not the data. It's not the center of the universe. The data is very important. It's a raw material in this world of artificial intelligence. But the center of the universe in this unprecedented time that we are living with this revolution of the artificial intelligence and machine learning is the way we are making decisions, the way machines are making decisions, the way they are helping us to make better decisions in our business. So we have this confluence of these four technologies, and these are the driving forces that today are creating this disruption in the marketplace, and they are creating new players. They are creating big threats for the incumbent companies. So some of them, as you saw in the previous figures, they are disappearing, or they are facing real problems to stay alive. So this is these driving forces are very important to understand and to keep in mind in this transformation. So we have any source of data, any source of information that you can consult or you can see. There is a lot of value at stake when talking about the analytical revolution. How to improve our business, how to improve the society, how to improve the entire economy. So if you take a roughly estimation of the GDP in the world, which is around, if I remember well, around $100 trillion, $1,000 trillion exactly. So you have here the impact for several sources of information that at least in the next coming 5, 10, 20 years, the value at stake could reach even 100 trillion, which is 10% of the overall GDP. Or other estimations are in the range of 1 to 1.5%, which is a huge amount of value that we have under the market, under the society, under the economy. And then with this enterprise analytical management approach, or this approach to make this revolution happen inside the incumbent companies or the new companies coming from the new economy, can reach all of this value and even more, because this is only estimation and we cannot see what are the boundaries of the knowledge in this moment, just to make this extrapolation properly. So we have, going back to the enterprises and based on our experience as a consultants. So when you go to an existing company, an incumbent player, could be the leader, could be the second one in the marketplace, we always find a lot of pitfalls or several things that, let's say, barriers to make the change happen and to be the analytical company. So for example, we have clearly 5 areas that typically a company, when they are trying to extract all the value, they are trying to start up a new analytical program inside the company, you have all of these barriers. The first one is the strategic vision about the analytics. So the analytic vision has to start at the CEO table, at the executive committee level. So, and also, it is important just to have a strategic analytical plan. That has to be a different plan from the strategic plan of the company, but at least this area deserves an important chapter inside the strategic plan of the company. So it's important just to start with this vision, because sometimes what we found is that typically these initiatives are coming from different levels of the organization, which is very fine, which is good to have this initiative, but without the backing of the top executive of the company. So we have also a clear pitfall in when we are talking about the people. This is not only a profession for data scientists. So we have the data scientist, which is a key person, a key profession in the middle of the mathematical modeling and developing of new mathematical models. But also you have other professions surrounding these data scientists. You have, for example, data engineers, you have DevOps experts, cloud specialists, data engineers, and so on and so forth. So you have to put a balanced team just to tackle with this initiative of the analytical transformation. Then you have involvement as well. So it's important that sometimes we cannot develop mathematical models just thinking that how the internal client is going to use this model. We have to involve the internal client, the internal stakeholder of these new developments since the beginning of this initiative. So we have to be persistent as well. Sometimes, and I've seen this case several times, when you finish a model and then someone in the executive team is asking you about the accuracy of the model or about the accuracy of the prediction, if this is a predictive model. And then when you answer this question and the question is very positive, maybe you're talking about 90%, 95%, or even 85%, whatever. And they are, I think that in some cases, they are losing the interest of this model, and then they want to develop another model. The important thing about developing mathematical models is just to get implemented till the end, till you have this value in the inside your P&L, inside your balance, inside your customer experience, and increasing the loyalty of your clients. So you have to go till the end, till you take the value of this implementation of a new model. And then finally is the data. The data is, as I said, is a raw material for this evolutionary time of the analytical transformation. And one thing which is very important about data, and this is something that is really interesting, because I think that data today is creating new silos in the companies. Because inside the company, I've seen that in some cases, the different responsible, the different director managers of the different areas, functions, or business units of a company, they are creating these silos based on the property of the data. And this is a clear mistake. The data is something that you have to share with the entire organization. And it's typically that sometimes you are in the operations department and they are saying, well, this is, we cannot involve this data mart because this is the CRM. This is from the CRM and this is from marketing. We cannot involve this database in the case of banking from this the risk department because this is from the risk department. So we have to put all the data together, internally and externally, because and specifically internally, data is creating today some silos that we have to pay attention to that, because it's a clear barrier to get the implementation done and to extract all the value in this transformation, this analytical transformation. So these are the pitfalls and the typical mistakes, I would say, that some of the companies right now in the marketplace are experiencing, not because they don't have the aim to implement analytics, but because maybe they are not focusing to have a clear path, a clear understanding of what is the meaning of this analytical transformation. So when talking about, when talking about this transformation of the company guided by analytics, it is not completely a new transformation. And why is that? Because we have several examples in the history of the management where a strategic function and a strategic development had to take the lead in that moment and had to evolve from a central department, for example, to be embedded in the overall supply chain, the overall value chain of the business. Let's take a couple of examples. For example, the management of the quality, the total quality management. At the very beginning, the quality was a control department, but the evolution of the total quality management, it takes place when this function was embedded across the whole value chain of the business. Or another example, enterprise risk management. So the risk department in a financial institution, it used to be a central department just taking decisions about what is the risk appetite, what are the modeling for the risk, what are the modeling for the credit scoring models, and so on and so forth. So, but after the Lehman Brothers collapse in 2008, all the regulators, all the authorities in the banking system, they were asking that the risk has to be embedded along the value chain of the business. And this is another similar case on enterprise transformation, where a function, a critical function, and a strategic function has to be put in all the value chain, as it was enterprise risk management after this crisis in 2008. Right now, all banks are talking about that even a new employee in a branch so far away from the headquarters of the bank has to know, for example, what is the implication of this new mortgage that they are approving today to a new client, and we have some risk in consumption of capital, in consumption of the profitability of the bank in case this mortgage goes to default, for example. So these are only a couple of examples, but we have several examples when you have to put inside your company a strategic function. And we have a lot of several lessons learned from this transformation that we can be applying when making the transformation of the analytical transformation. So this is another source of information for us and for the market, because I think that here we have a tremendous source of knowledge, lessons learned, and even results of this. What are the critical paths, what are the critical issues, what are the critical barriers to implement those new ways to manage the company when you have to integrate a strategic function inside your value chain. So we have, at the end of the day, enterprise analytical management encompasses all the elements to make this change happen. So we have the analytical vision and strategy. We have what is the impact in the decision-making process of the company. What are the analytical areas and cases and use cases that you have to develop in the different areas of the company, the different line of businesses. And also you have the implementation and all the transformation side of this analytical transformation, which in any other transformation, in any other revolution in the economical sectors, is the key point, the most difficult one that we found as a consultant. So it's not the difficulty sometimes is not in the strategic definition, it's not in the development of new mathematical models, but the real challenge is in the transformation of the organization. That's why we have this approach to develop enterprise analytical management, starting with a factory, with a facility that can put together all the key ingredients to make this change a success. From the analytical vision, the business objectives, value creation, it is very important to measure what is going to be the impact of the analytical company, of the analytical transformation. We have to have at least a range of value to capture. It is very important. Otherwise, the executive committee, the board of directors of the company are not going to pay any minutes trying to understand what is the transformation, what is the impact of this analytical transformation. We have inside this facility, this factory as well, the data, the analytical knowledge, people, organization, and technology, of course, and all the governance model just to make this implementation and this transformation happen. So, but this is not very easy. This is complicated, and then you need some key elements inside the company just to make this change happen. The first one, I would say that in a vision of an enterprise analytical management transformation, we need at least 3 key areas just to pay attention to. The first one is the commitment of the entire executive committee, the board of directors, and the CEO of the company, of course, all the top management, all the board of directors. The president has to be aware of this opportunity to transform the company, to survive in these unprecedented times of change. The second thing is that to have a plan to embed analytics in the value chain of the business. So we have to get the involvement of the different responsible of the organization, that analytics can play a key role in the development of their own management areas. And the third one, maybe is one of the most important things. Analytics is not for free. So you have to invest money, and you have to have a clear idea of what is going to be the return on analytics or in analytical transformation investment. So you have to start creating a sounding business cases. You have to sum up all the initiative and putting together all the initiative in a plan, in a comprehensive plan of the analytical transformation. You have to figure out what is going to be the value in terms of revenues, in terms of cost cutting, in terms of profitability increase, in terms of return on investment, and then to have a clear case, and then to commit some resources. You have to commit resources, of course, economical resources, but also investments in data and technology, analytical talent. But analytical talent is not only just to go to the market and to hire some people, some very brilliant data scientists or data engineers and so on and so forth. In that case, from the human resources department, we have to implement a policy of the different departments, because we are going to have this analytical culture along the supply chain, along the entire organization. We have to maybe to get promoted people with this analytical sense that can understand analytics, but also the business side, can understand analytics and also the function that they are running in the company. So analytical talent is not only just to go to the market and to hire people, but also to identify what are the potentiality that you have inside, because based on my experience, you have always talent that maybe it's not a data scientist, a pure data scientist, but you have several people in an organization with these analytical skills, which can play a big role when talking about this transformation in the analytical company. So going back a little bit to this transformation, and in order to identify and to build up this transformational plan guided by analytics. So one thing is that, and a key question that some of my clients, some of the key executives are making in the market is how to prioritize a analytical plan. If I have several, sometimes tens, thousands, tens, hundreds, no, hundreds, sorry, of opportunities, of use cases inside my company, how to make them prioritize. And it's based on the return on investment, it's based on the impact on the organization. What are the criteria that you put just to classify the different? Well, our criteria is just to apply. If the analytics is going to tackle mainly with the decision-making process of the company, the most important thing is to understand and to make an inventory of this decision-making process in the company. So it is important just to prioritize a plan, to understand how many decisions are you making in the different departments, and to calculate an inventory of these decisions. And also, what is the importance of every of these decisions? If these decisions are based on capacity, are based on investments, are based on pricing, are based on product portfolio, are based on innovation. So you have to put together and to analyze of all the decisions that you are making every day, every month, every certain time, from time to time, from year to year, all the decisions that you are making inside your company, you have to make an inventory. And then trying to segment all of these decisions and to prioritize. If I apply analytics in these areas of my company based on the, for example, as you can see on my screen right now, based on the frequency and the business impact of these segments of different decisions, you can establish some priorities and focus those first developments of the machine learning, of the artificial intelligence, of the algorithms at the beginning, based on the ones with the most critical ones. It is what we call the analytical areas. Analytical area is a common area of the company that they are making similar decisions, and then you can define a set of algorithms, a set of analytical approach just to improve the decision-making process in this specific part of the company. So once you have the analytical areas, then you can establish the Enterprise Analytical Management roadmap based on these analytical areas of decision in the company. You can have, as I said, you have an example in the right-hand side of this slide right now. And then the usage of data. What is the correct approach? In my opinion, some of the companies today are putting a lot of investment. In some cases, in my opinion, it's a personal opinion, it's in some cases excessive amount of data, amount of investment only in data, because after creating a huge lake of data, no matter if it's in Hadoop or other technologies, after creating this, let's say, crystal clear environment for the data, which is never the reality, according to my experience. But after that, you realize that maybe only 5% of this data is going to be valuable for you, for your company. So what is happening with the rest of the data? Because sometimes the right data that you need to solve a problem is not even within your company. It's outside your company. Sometimes you have to buy the data to another player. Sometimes you have to establish some strategic alliances to interchange data according to the regulation, according to the establishing laws in this territory or geography or country. Or you have to start building up this data. If this data is not outside in the market and you cannot reach this data outside, but you have to start collecting this data because it's a critical data. But the only way to identify these sources of data that you don't have right now is the approach of the data management. You have these two extreme approaches. You have the push approach or the pull approach. The push is more similar to the big data mining type of approach, which is, well, I have all of this amount of data, I have this list of problems to solve. Let's try to figure out if with this data I can solve this problem. Well, it's a kind of an approach, but sometimes it is difficult to find what you are looking for. It is difficult to, because sometimes you have correlations, you have results, even when you're applying black box type of modeling with no explanation, but you have some relationships, some correlation between the variables. But there are correlations that sometimes you cannot explain, or it doesn't make any sense for the business. So it's difficult to find. I'm not saying that the push approach is not the right approach. Sometimes you have to do it because sometimes it is a good exercise just to figure out what is the quality of the data, the information that you can extract from the different features of your data and your database and your data marts inside your company, which is a right approach but for me, the right approach is just the other way around. First, identify the problem, the business needs. Then identify what source, what kind of algorithm, what kind of methodological approach is going to be suitable to solve this problem, to make an adjustment, to make a development with this methodological approach. And then at the end, you have to ask yourself, what kind of data do I need just to make this exercise? And also, in some cases with the data, you don't need to have this sometimes, because in some cases, I prefer to use a small amount of data, just sampling. Sampling is a very good strategy when dealing with data. You don't need these huge databases. Only you can extract with certain type of approaches, some sampling of the data. You can make mathematical modeling always also with this approach with sampling of the data. So we have a lot of things to discuss about the data. We know that we have data. Sometimes I just make this comparison, just going back to the parallelism with the evolution of the species, that maybe we are creating that amount of data like the cyanobacteria at the beginning of the 2000 billion years ago, when they were creating the atmosphere of oxygen, but it was the oxygen that kills these cyanobacteria. So I'm not sure that if the amount of data we are creating right now is going to kill the current structure of the company and the current structure of some of the economical sectors. But we are sure that we are creating a huge amount of data, and this is growing geometrically as the time goes. So, but what are the different, once we have a clear analytical roadmap, once we have some approach with the data, now we have to understand what type of mathematical models, what is the status of the art of the algorithms, machine learning, artificial intelligence, cognitive. So what are the right approach? So here you have a very simple classification of the different approaches, but just to make a summary, when dealing with the majority, let's say a huge amount of the approaches and mathematical models that you can develop inside the company, some of them, they are trying to answer 3 questions. One question is about segmentation and classification. Let's make a segmentation of our customer base. Let's make a segmentation of our distributors. Let's make a segmentation of our suppliers or the invoices, whatever is the system that you want to segment or classify. This is a type of approach. This is a type of need inside the entire organization, no matter what is the department, no matter what is the function inside your company. Then you have another set of questions, which is the prediction. So I know how this system is behaving in the past, and I want to make a prediction in the future. So I know that the prices of the oil and gas, it is very difficult to predict, are evolving in that with these patterns. What is going to be the price of the LNG or the barrel of petroleum in the next few days, few months, and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, is just to, or how this client is going to be, what is going to be the behavior in the future of these loyalty clients? Are they going to keep loyal to my company? Are they going to quit and creating some churn inside my organization? So it's all about prediction. This is the second question a company or a team can have when applying analytics. And the third question is optimization. So what is the optimal decision when taking some strategic decision? For example, typically the price. What is the best price to sell this item in the marketplace? I know I have different approaches. I have the cost plus the markup. I can make some benchmark with the competition, but also I have some tools, some algorithms that can predict or can optimize the price in this market. Typically, optimization is when you're trying to make, for example, difficult trade-off of different decisions that you have to take in an organization. For example, when you have to make the trade-off between the typical situation, when you have to make a trade-off between the service level and the cost of the of providing this service. So we have to make this kind of trade-off, and then you have to make a kind of an optimization. You have a lot of problems solved by optimization in the supply chain. What is the optimal number of warehouses do I have to have in my supply chain? What is the optimal level of stock that I have to keep in this supply chain structure, and so on and so forth. And then after these three questions, I have several things I can do with machine learning, which is a focus what we can learn from the data. It is something that is hidden under the data that it is not clear for us, it's not obvious for us. So with machine learning, we can also put this knowledge on the table and learning about the data. Okay, so these are typical approaches. And another thing that is it's important to highlight is just to in some organizations it's difficult to establish what is the barrier between business intelligence and machine learning or analytics. No matter what is the internal name you use just to define these two areas, but business intelligence can use analytics and can use some mathematical approaches, but analytics is something else. Machine learning is something else, because the complexity and the approach that you have in that field is different. So business intelligence is more focused on reporting and trying to describe what is the current behavior of different areas of the business. But the other modeling are trying to make more sophisticated decisions based on more sophisticated models. So it is important to make this distinction between business intelligence and analytics in a company. So we have also, for this transformation, a key element, as I said, is the management of the team. To create an analytical team, at least you need to have different profiles of people. Of course, the analytics analyst or the data scientist by itself. But then you have to understand that the basic thing for an analytical team, you have to cover 4 different functions. You have to cover this interface with the business, what we call the business translator. It is a person that can understand the business problem and can translate this problem into a formulation of an analytical approach. Then we have the model strategies. Understanding the model strategies is the one, understanding the problem, understanding the mathematical approach, and he is setting the mathematical approach. He is selecting the family of algorithms to apply for this specific situation. Then we have the data scientist, which is the one developing the algorithm and making the programming, no matter what is the environment, Python or whatever is the R, whatever is the or more close platform like a SAS or MATLAB or whatever is this platform to develop analytics. And then you have also the connection with the data itself with all these data engineers that you need on the team. So these are the basic functions in an analytical team to develop the different algorithms, the different use cases that you have planned in the roadmap. How these people are organized? Well, as I said, making the parallelism between the different big transformational plans from the history of management, for example, quality, risk management, and so on and so forth. We have this inspiration from the manufacturing approach of Toyota in the last century, where they organized the operations inside the facilities, manufacturing the new cars in Toyota in the 50s and 60s in the last century. And they create the concept of the just-in-time. And based on this, some of the tools to put the just-in-time to work was the concept of the manufacturing U-cell. The manufacturing U-cell is a manufacturing cell that we are applying in this case, just to develop the different analytical teams. Because at the end of the day, the business translator is the one capturing the need from the business, but is the one delivering this solution to the business. So the business translator at least has to be involved at the beginning of when the problem is set, but also at the end when the results are delivered to the business, because you can understand that the outcome of a mathematical model, of an algorithm, sometimes is very complicated to understand. Sometimes it's very complicated to digest by the business. And then you need this bridge. You have to build what we call internally in Altair, in my company, the bridge, between the algorithm and the business. You have to build a bridge. You have to transform this data, and you have sometimes to visualize this data in a way that the business can understand what are the suggestions, what is the decision-making process that this model is suggesting to make such a decision in this specific problem. So you have this business translator. The model strategies as well is involved at the beginning and at the end, is selecting the algorithm, but also controlling the quality of the programming and the deliverable of the of the modeling, the programming, which is made by the analytics analyst or the data scientist. And then you have, once this model is defined or selected by the model strategy, you have the role of the data engineer, which is selecting the different sources of information, the different sources of data in the company, or external data, internal data, putting together all this data captured in a data mart or in a repository of data. And then the analytics analyst is the one just making this programming, as I said. But this is typically the frame for this team to work together, trying to solve and to develop the different use cases inside a company. So we have as well now we have the different profiles of people that I need to develop the different mathematical models and the algorithms, I mean the use cases. Now the question is, well, at a higher level, what should be the organizational structure just to start making this transformation? Well, you have different approaches depending on the way you want to make this transformation inside the company you are managing or you are participating in. But you have to, as a first principle, the function leading this analytical transformation, no matter what is the name of the title inside the company, no matter if this is a chief data officer, is a chief analytical officer, is a chief machine learning officer. So no matter what is the title, but this function has to be as high as possible inside the organizational chart. That's very important. If it is possible, just to with this dependency directly to the CEO of the company. This is very important, because if you put this function inside your company in other level of the organization, sometimes it's very difficult for them to demonstrate the value and to demonstrate what is this contribution that they can make to the whole company. So once we have this function at the first level, the other question is, well, what is the degree of centralization, the centralization that we have to establish with the different business units, in case my company is made of different business units, or in case I have a functional organization, and then trying to put the proper relationship between this new department and the different functions inside the company. So we have three possibilities: a centralized model where this department is running independently from the different line of business and functions in the rest of the company. We have the centralized model where these analytical capabilities are built internally in each of the functional business units in the company. Or we have kind of a hybrid model combining some bit of power or different governance models between the centralized organization and the different functions inside the company, inside the different functions of the company. One thing which is relevant and I want to highlight is just to make this transformation happen, you have to develop the analytical culture across the organization. At least you have to have, if you have a centralized organization, at least you have to have a kind of a liaison in each of these functional business units along the whole organization. The role of this liaison is clear. It's just to translate, because this liaison is more the role of a business translator. He has to translate the business needs into use cases, and then to pass this information to the central analytical department, and also to receive and to criticize and to support or not the different modeling that they are being developing by the central organization of the analytical department. Sometimes it is a typical question of a CEO or an executive team. How do I start? What is the best way to start? Trying to start with this debate internally in my company, how to approach the analytical organization, how to approach the analytical transformation. And well, it's very simple. It's only as easy as to start like asking your executive team to think about in 2-3 situations or problems or circumstances where analytics can be applied to develop some better decision-making process in your organization, in your area of responsibility of the company. And then just to put together all of these ideas, just maybe it's 2 or 3 per executive participating in this committee. And then you have the very first version of a roadmap in your company. And then after that, you need some, as I said some slides ago, you need to prioritize this initiative and to add all the initiatives along the way, along the supply chain, along the business value chain. But it's important to start with some debate and introducing analytics in your organization. Sometimes after that, after this exercise, the new CDO or the new analytical director can lead this discussion at the level of department, at the level of area of the company or business unit, just to start up with this thinking about how analytics can facilitate or can improve the performance of the area that I'm in charge of. So we have also according to the structure of this factory, we need a governance model for this analytics department, for this analytical revolution inside my company. So how to establish this governance model? So first of all, we have to classify the different analytical areas, and you have here a very simple classification. This is based on the NFL, so in the American football. So you have inside a team, you have different teams, right? You have the offense, the defense, so you have different special plays, so you have different teams. So it's the same in analytics. So you can divide, you can classify the different initiatives with according to different analytical areas. Like for example, just to make it simple, here in this example, you have 2 areas. You have the attack or the offense team, which is all the initiative trying to increase client loyalty and the revenue of the company. Or you have the defense team, which is all projects related with cost optimization, risk management, resource optimization and allocation, and so on and so forth. So you can have these different areas or teams to develop and aggregating the impact of these the different algorithms to be developed in the company. But also, you need to put together this governance and role. This is an idea coming from the enterprise risk management. As I said, we are taking a lot of inspiration from other transformation revolutions in the history of management. And this is coming, someone is coming from the banking industry in the audience today. You will identify perfectly what I'm talking about, because you have this 3 lines of action in this analytical deployment inside an organization. But this is reality. You need this kind of governance model to make this analytical transformation happen and to put this transformation to work. You have the first line of action. In analytics means that you have to have this team close to the business, to the different areas of the business. Then you have another function, which is the central team developing and delivering the different algorithms. And then the third line of action, which is very important, as long as you are growing the number of algorithms developed in your company, this is a function that you have to develop, because when you have a couple of algorithms, it is not a problem. But if you have 200 algorithms running in your company, you may have a problem depending on the degree of your decision-making process is relying on these algorithms. What I mean is that at the end of the day, as long as you are the complexity and the number of algorithms is growing in your company, because they are using, or you are using extensively these algorithms inside your supply chain and the value chain of the business, you need to establish some quality assurance procedures to this kind of developments. As long as you have several tens, hundreds of algorithms running in your company, you need to establish this quality control algorithm. And just taking as an example, coming from the banking industry, after this the crisis, the economical crisis in 2008, the regulators in the banking industry asked the banks just to measure the risk of a mathematical model. Because the way you are using the mathematical models, the way you are treating the data, the way you are making decisions based on these algorithms can put a risk on the bank itself. So then the regulators put some clear regulations explaining that you have to follow an analysis and diagnose and evaluation of the sources of risk, especially in those critical algorithms that you are taking to make the strategic decisions, like a risk, like a pricing, like other critical areas in a financial institution in that case. And the sources of error or mistake of typically of a mathematical model, they were defined as 3, which are the 3 of them are very logic. So we have the sources of data. This is the first source of error. We have to have data quality. We have to understand what are the sources of the data. What is the data that I'm using? If this data is absolutely clean, and all the fields are fulfilled, we don't have too many blanks inside, which is a typical problem with databases. So the completeness of the information of the data. What is the data availability? What is the data historical track? So we need to know what are the sources of data, because we have to understand what is the risk that you are taking, because sometimes when you're using different sources of data, you are assuming some risk. Sometimes those risks are identified, but sometimes not. So we have to, and you have to realize what are the sources of data, and especially the quality of this data. If these sources of data are reliable, not reliable, or something in the middle. So you have to understand, and you have to quantify in that case, because this is a serious regulation in the US market. What is the source of risk that you are having because of the usage of different sources of data. So the second risk of the algorithm development is the methodology itself. So what is the mathematical and statistical approach? What are the estimators of the confidence of the parameters, of the intervals, of the confidence of the results, of the outcome of the model? What is the level of error in different circumstances? What are all the hypotheses, approximations, and simplifications that you have to take along the way just to develop a mathematical model? And also, what are your validation methodology? So this is another source of risk when developing mathematical models. And the last one is the usage of the model. So you have to have a process to continuous calibration of the model. You have to have a process to back testing continuously to make sure that this model is well trained, is accurate in making decisions. And you have to be sure that you are making decisions inside the interval of the reach of your data. So it's important not to go outside. Sometimes we are in several models when we don't have this risk to make a decision. So sometimes we try to go outside the interval or the range that the data is covering, the initial data feeding the model. But it's important to understand that it is not, to a certain point, it is not acceptable to make predictions or to make estimations or to make calculation outside the range of the data that you are using. I think, and I want to make a reflection here about those times of the pandemic, because I think it's important to understand from a data perspective that the pandemic has put the majority of the companies, economical sectors, enterprises operating in a situation that were unpredicted, that were unprecedented. So I remember, for example, just making some risk models development in some financial institutions and discussing about, for example, the exercise of the stress test and trying to figure out, this is before the pandemic, period, where we are discussing about negative scenarios. Well, a negative scenario could be when the unemployment reaches an increase of 5%, and for example, the GDP is declining by 2%, and so, this is an exaggeration. I remember some of the discussion inside in a working team. So after the pandemic, we had this environment with even more critical scenario variables, like for example, declining in the GDP by 15, 20 points, increasing the unemployment by 15, 20% in 3 months. So we have the opportunity, every crisis, you have the two sides, right? You have the side of the crisis, but sometimes you can see it, the opportunity to learn something and to be positive in this learning. We have in the majority of the company has been operating outside the comfort zone. So we have right now a more richer set of data in several companies. So with this data and with the data before the pandemic, you can combine and to have and extended, I would say, mathematical models to explain what are the key dynamics of this business, because you have the real data, because you have in reality you have been operating under these special circumstances that maybe I'm not gonna, I hope so, I'm not gonna be repeated in the future. So you have these new circumstances and you have this new set of data, and you can expand the reach of your mathematical model, no matter what is the department. And also you are experiencing in your models other factors, external factors, like for example, the teleworking, the school from home, the reduction of the commute with the big cities. So not only the economical sector, but also the social behavior is changing during this pandemic. So you have a lot of data to capture, a lot of data depending on the sector you are operating, depending on the nature of your company. But you have a lot of information, not only inside your company, but externally of your operation field that you can put inside. So for us, for the analytical consultants or the analytical people involved in this mathematical modeling, is a good period of time, because the amount of data and the extended range and the variety of the different data right now is huge. And then you can make more accurate, more sophisticated approaches when dealing with the data. Okay. So the next question about this development of the enterprise analytical management is how to approach the IT development, how to approach the technological infrastructure to develop all the cases and to keep running and to keep the maintenance and the improvement of these the different versions of the different mathematical models. So here there is a key question. Do I have to build up the platform by myself if I have the resources, if I'm participating in a big company or with a certain volume? Do I have the resources to build my own analytical platform internally, considering that this typically is very complicated? And I've seen in the market that the majority of the big companies are trying to build up their own analytical platform. But there is an strategic reflection, a strategic thought that any company has to put on the table and to discuss about it, because these developments are very expensive because of the different systems and the different knowledge and technologies, platforms you have to put together. It is complicated and it takes a lot of time. So the question is, if we extrapolate this decision, maybe I would say 40, 30 years ago, with the development of the ERP systems, if you remember, at that time, every company was developing the IT infrastructure and the IT system function by function. I had this platform in finance, I had the other approach for logistics, I have another approach for the sales force and the sales management. So, and the key thing was how to integrate all the information inside a company. So that's the business opportunity is to develop the ERP system, the enterprise resource planning type of approaches or solutions, like for example the leader in the world market, which is SAP, or other platforms or other solutions for this kind of integration of all the system information transactions inside a business. So today, nobody is asking, well, do I have to build up my own ERP inside my company? Because you have a solution in the marketplace. So there are some companies, like for example, the one led by the founder of Siebel, Tom Siebel, that after selling his company, I think he sold his company to Salesforce, I think, or Oracle. I don't remember right now. It doesn't matter. But Tom Siebel sold his own company, Siebel CRM. It was a very good tool for specifically for the part of the CRM of the Salesforce automation. And now he's leading a company creating the ERP of the analytical platform world. So he is developing this platform. The company is C3.ai. You can find this company, some of these charts, for example, this one is, and the next one is based on the digital transformation book by Tom Siebel, which is, I strongly recommend you to take and to read this book, which is I think is a very good one in the digital transformation of all the books that you can find today. I think this is a really good one. So thinking about the building up of this platform, so you can have this the model-driven artificial intelligence architecture, which is a kind of an approach that you can integrate all the pieces needed in a very simple way, because one of the value proposition of this kind of analytical platform is that you can develop an analytical platform in maybe 1 or 2 orders of magnitude in terms of the time to develop this kind of platform compared when you are making the approach of do it yourself or trying to develop this internally in a company. So for example, this integration is leading us to this type of organizations or type of application with 3 layers. The central is the platform as a service, integrating all the tools that you need to create the analytical environment, the development of the algorithms, and then you have the layer of the infrastructure. I mean, the cloud computing, all the services that you can find in these 3 or 4 players that we have in the marketplace, like Amazon Web Service or Azure or Google Cloud Platform or whatever is the player in the market. So we have this infrastructure as a service, and you can contract capacity to store data, capacity to make your running of your mathematical optimization and your mathematical adjustment of your algorithms. And then you have this the upper layer, which is the software as a service. This is organizations that are plugging their own applications like the CRM or the inventory application, or we can integrate also the customer application, like for example, anti-money laundry or manufacturing quality optimization. So you can put together all the elements, and this is one of the purpose of these approaches, just to create this environment as a multi-cloud type of development or deployment. And then you are constructing the whole system, and then you are putting together the data and the different applications and your contract or your relationship with the infrastructure as a service and so on and so forth. So creating this platform, if you contract this type of approaches directly to the market, like for example, the company of Tom Siebel, the C3.ai, so you can save a lot of time in developing this type of platform. But in the market, banking, petroleum companies, insurance company, they are all trying to build up this kind of platform. So it's sometimes it's a dilemma, right? Do I have to put the time, the effort, the money to build up this platform, and then after 3-4 years realizing that there is a solution outside that maybe is a package, is a comprehensive solution with all the layers, just to let's say plug and play my development. Other question is the cost of this kind of platforms, right? Because sometimes if you are a big company, so you can afford just to make this expenditure and investment in these internal developments. But sometimes I think it's better just to see the market, what is the status of the technology, the state of the art in terms of the solutions that some companies like this one that I'm showing you is providing or is placing in the marketplace. So as a summary of my presentation, as a closing summary, I would say that first of all, I would like to talk about the context of this disruptive environment that we are living today. I think that environment is typically a disruption. In this, when I was playing this, when I was showing you this parallelism with the evolution of the species, and when you have this equilibrium period of time following by a disruption, I think we are clearly in a disruptive environment. And this disruption has been increased by the COVID, obviously, at all levels, at the level of economy, society, customer behavior, and the way we are seeing our lives, and the change of the priorities of the people, of the decision makers in any market is absolutely disruptive at this moment. And there is an exercise to make these things happen in any sector. So I think it's the right moment just to, in any board of director or executive committee, just to place the question, how analytics can help us understand not only the dynamics of my, let's say, traditional business, but also the combination of the traditional business, if I have to keep some of this information of this learning in the equation, plus the combination with the new environment, which is, it is not a new environment, which is static. It's a new environment that right now is changing every day, because the vaccines, the evolution of the virus, all of these are changing along the way because of the new findings and the new policies that are being placed by the authorities. So it is clear that we have in a disruptive change. So because we have been talking about enterprise analytical management since, I would say, 4 years ago, but now in the last 1.5 years, we have confirmed that all of these approaches are very valid, are more valid than ever, just to make this transformation inside your company. So the frequency, the velocity of those changes are increasingly. So we have to pay attention on how the environment, how my clients, how the technology are evolving in these times, because we are going to be an accelerating of bankruptcies, of mergers and acquisitions, accelerating in the creation of new startups. And then we have to understand how the client is behaving, how the client, not only the the B2C client or the B2B client. So we have to understand all the market forces that are changing and all the things that are disrupting in this situation. For example, we have the majority of the sectors, for example, today are fighting, just trying to change the distribution model. If you take a look of any sector, for example, the banking sector, they are trying to close down, accelerating the close down of the branches and go to online channels. And this is something that with this pandemic is accelerating. The real estate sector with all this professional or the teleworking and the professional approach to the different jobs is changing rapidly, but we don't know what is going to happen in 6 months' time, because we are trying to figure out if we have to go to teleworking, 4 days in the office, 1 day at home, or just the other way around. So it's not clear what is these changes are forcing us to create. At the end of the day, the opportunity with analytics is not only to optimize the existing business, but also to create new business models inside of our companies. So we have to understand how the environment and the context is changing and how we can take advantage of that. And I think that with an analytical approach is a key thing that we have to put in the list of the hot topics in an executive agenda, and to cover this as a strategic priority for this time. So this is very important. And as I said, I was making a reflection about, for example, the distribution model. For example, imagine the gas station sector, when the automobile industry is accelerating the introduction of the different version of an electric car, no matter if it's a hybrid one or it's a fully electric car. So they have to reinvent what is going to be the role of a gas station. Or, for example, in the retail sector, you have companies like, for example, some players in the marketplace that before the pandemic, they had the strategy not to go online. And they focus 100% their strategy on the brick business. I mean, on the physical shops and to shop in front of the client. So this is another example. Or, for example, just talking about the automobile industry, all the car makers, the car manufacturers, today are thinking about how to establish a new distribution channel, just how to go directly to the end client. And what is going to be the future role of the dealer in this situation when the brand is going directly to the end client and trying to establish this relationship with them. So again, analytics can play a role in this situation, can create new context. For example, trying to predict what is going to be the customer behavior when a customer is looking for a new car, or is looking for a reparation of an existing car, or is looking to buy a used car, or whatever is going to be their need. So in this situation, the distribution is going to be affected, and its changes are accelerating because of this pandemic. The changes were there, but now these changes are completely accelerating the changes in any sector that we can understand. We can figure out and trying to understand what are the dynamics. So I think it's the right moment just to put in place this type of strategies and trying to put the analytical approach in the top of the executive agenda. And the second thing is the leadership. So we need real leaders understanding what is this analytical agenda all about, and also the I would like to make here a reflection about the leadership of the company and how the role of the CEO is evolving right now in taking decisions like analytical approaches and so on and so forth. So I remember several years ago, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when a CEO had to make a decision about technology, about to contract a new platform, a new core system, a new ERP, CRM, to some extent, they were subcontracting this decision to the executive team, led by the IT director, maybe, or the IT vice president. But to some extent, they were able to, let's say, to move this decision to the proper people in their organization. Right now, with this analytical revolution, I think is different, because the decisions involving technology, involving analytics, and all of this kind of machine learning, artificial intelligence, is something that is playing a role in the current business model of the companies. So we have right now this dilemma, no? Because the CEO has to think about that he has to be very much involved in this decision. He has to be very much informed, trained. He has to knowledge the implications. So he has to be, as I said, completely the leader sometimes of this decision, because, and this is forcing the new CEOs to have this knowledge, not the technical knowledge in the deep detail, but to have more knowledge that they had in the past when they were subcontracting some technological decisions to the specialized people in the team. Because right now, those decisions are not decisions that are going to improve. Of course, they're going to improve the current process structure, but this decision can make a profound transformation of the business model, to change the business model, to change the way to approach the client, to change a lot of things. So it's something like I feel like there is a new demand for these CEOs, that they have to be they have to continue being trained, understand, and to have all the elements to make these terrific decisions. Because I mean these huge decisions, because they are going to be affecting the future of their business in the next coming years. So this is a critical demand for a CEO or for the board of directors of the majority of the companies in the marketplace. And if you go to any headhunter today and you discuss what the companies are demanding about these profiles and new resources for the company, specifically for the CEO level, you find this, that they are looking for this type of leaders, the ones that can understand the transformation, the technology, the analytical approach that can transform their business. So it's important to have this leadership inside the companies, not only at the CEO level, but at all levels in the company. Because if you want to implement as I said, an analytical agenda, you have to have this analytical leadership across your organization. So another thing important is just to set the goals. It's important not just to start a plan in analytics because your competition is doing the same thing. You have to, I think you have to have a real understanding And establishing the goals is not only a strategic exercise, just putting the direction to this analytical environment, but also to measure the impact. It is very difficult to measure the impact of an analytical transformation, but at least you have to have the exercise and you have to ask your organization to make the best estimation with the knowledge of the analytical state of the art in all the technologies, algorithms, and so on and so forth, trying to have this vision how these new approaches can transform the business or can provide new business models. So you have to have a clear idea, at least to have a range of the order of magnitude in terms of revenue, cost reduction, increase the market share, increase the loyalty of the clients, and so on and so forth. So you have to have this vision of the market. You have to have these goals, and you have to quantify these goals. And because if you don't have quantification of the analytical plan, it is difficult to make the commitment, to compromise some resources, to compromise some investment, to develop this, for example, the analytical platform, or to hire new people, or to promote people with the right skills and giving them enough resources to develop the analytical plans, and so on and so forth. So you have to have also a short-term and a long-term plan. It's important that the roadmap in analytics has these two different horizons of objectives. So you have to have a clear set of use cases where you think that you are going to have these, let's say, easy, successful results. And then to place to the long term the most difficult ones, or the cases with the most risk to be developed, because you don't know what is going to be the impact in the long run. In addition, you have to put in place the right organization. You have to promote the knowledge of the analytical environment inside the whole organization. For example, just placing new HR policies inside your company. Like, for example, if you are in the marketing department and you want to promote, or you have to promote to a certain position, and you have two internal candidates, maybe in this new environment, you are going to bet for the candidate with one of the criteria to make the decision, not the only one, of course. But maybe if the other things are equal for these two candidates, maybe you promote the one with stronger capabilities, a stronger experience in the field of analytics, or a stronger understanding of what analytics can add to the business in this specific area of the company, in that case, the marketing department. And we have to move on. So there is no, as always, there is no a perfect organizational design, not in this revolution of the analytical and digital era, in any other revolutions. But the thing is that is just to create a new structure, just to promote new policies, just to put in place new processes, and trying different organizations. So the development of an organization sometimes is like a try and error type of approach. So sometimes you think that because it's not, I don't think that we have a solution for mathematical. Maybe someone is working on that, how to design a new organization applying machine learning, but this is something that we have to think about. This is for my team. We don't have never we have the ideal organization, because the design of an organization is always a trade-off. It's multiple trade-offs at the same time. So we have to make different balances and equilibriums. But at the end of the day, you have to put the right organizational design. You have to put in place the right objective and incentive planning to promote analytics. You have to put in place the planning and control systems to promote and to follow the return on investment on analytics. You have to set the right technology, the right balance scorecard, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's just to move on and try to make this happen. And finally, as I said, you have any organization has a great challenge deciding how to develop and how to run all of these new approaches, all of these new technologies in my company without creating a complete mess inside the organization, which is one of the risks that you are facing when developing analytics, specifically in big corporations. But I think that the concept to create an analytical lab, an analytical factory, it's a good concept. It's a centralized concept at the beginning, but as you've seen in the presentation, you have to establish the strategy, vision, policies, processes, organization, just to, at the end of the day, to embed analytics along the, embed this analytical lab, this analytical identification of new opportunities, development of this mathematical modeling, and then make the things happen and to capture all value as a stake. So it's important just to have this organization in a form of a kind of a factory of analytics. And then the final decision, as I said, is make versus buy. So you have to, especially for those big corporations, you have to make this decision that what is the best approach for your company? What is the best approach for your business situation? It's just to build up with different pieces an analytical platform, or just trying to buy a state-of-the-art, let's say, finished platform in the market, no matter what is the investment on that. So this is the end of my presentation. It's been a great pleasure just to be sharing this time with all of you. I hope this content and the sharing of the experience of my company has been profitable for all of you. And then I will pass the voice to Juan Carlos Pereira just to place the turn of the questions.
Thank you so much, Juan Carlos. Thank you very much. So yes, and we have a couple of questions right now. As a reminder, you can send your questions through the questions tab that appears on your control panel on your right side, probably. And we have a few minutes to address those questions. Before going through the questions, I remind that tomorrow, no, but Thursday will be the second session of this workshop. And we will have with us that day Carlos Pascual and Octavio Loyola that will take the lead there. So Juan Carlos, we have several questions from the audience, and I think we're going to be able to address all of them. So the first one, I think it's something that you mentioned during your presentation, but it would be interesting to clarify or to remind that it's, if you must start a plan to analytically transform your business, how one should start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you have to start this analytical transformation, the first element that you have to have in place is that the commitment of the key executive of the company. Mm-hmm. The most important one is the CEO. And then the second element is to have a vision and to have a roadmap plan about this analytical transformation. The third thing is to creating the business cases and measure and quantify the impact or the predictive impact of the different development that you can place in your business, and then to allocate the proper resources, the proper investment, and the proper budget to develop all this transformation. It is important to also to have a clear horizon in which time you want to get which results, which is very important to understand the analytical transformation and to understand the analytical path to this analytical company, which is the ideal target model that any company should follow.
Thank you. Yeah, so it doesn't differ very much from any other important decision of a company, like, for example, internationalization. When a company wants to go outside their own country, they also need to have involved the CEO, the management levels, because if not, that's going to fail no matter what. Very good. Another question that we have, it's, is digital transformation part of the analytical transformation?
Yes. Well, this is a chicken and egg dilemma, you know. But in reality, the digital transformation, I would say, is a broader field to transform a company. I think to some extent, the analytical transformation is at the same level of importance as the digital transformation, but they are sharing some common targets. They are sharing some common approaches, the way we manage the internal projects, the way we focus on this improving the company. But digital transformation, to some extent, is a broader concept, and some pieces of this digital transformation could be sharing with the analytical transformation.
Very good, thank you. Why analytical transformation often fails?
Well, it's you have several reasons because of that, but just put in negative what I said at the answer of the first question. It is the lack of commitment of the executive team, the CEO. The vision of the CEO is key. He has to believe in this transformation. He has to have a clear idea. Because sometimes when you start a plan, where you are starting a transformation in an analytical transformation, I mean, you have to have this scientific method approach, in the sense that some of your developments, you have to realize that some of them are going to fail. So you have to have this mentality that not all the things that you are going to develop are going to be a success. I'm just remembering some of the good sentence of Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, that sometimes when he's explaining about Amazon and about some of the key success factors of Amazon, and one of his remarks always is that we are that good because we have the ability to make experimentation, to make hypotheses and to try this hypothesis. In the majority of the cases, we fail, but we learn from the failures. So this mentality is a key thing, that if you have this lack of mentality and you want to bet only on projects that they have absolutely a high percentage of a success probability, you are not in the right culture to make this happen. But you have other sources of failures, like, for example, the management of the data, not having a clear roadmap plan, not having the proper team on place, on the proper resources and capabilities. But I would say another thing which is as important as the commitment of the CEO and the executive team, which is the transformational capabilities of the organization. The way the culture, the way the people working in this organization are accepting new ideas, are accepting new approaches, are accepting new sources of information, because at the end of the day, in some cases, there is a kind of rejection about these new approaches, because some of the employees, some of the middle management sometimes are thinking about that they are losing their jobs because a machine learning approach or an algorithm of artificial intelligence is going to be taking decisions instead of him. So, but this is not the reality in the majority of the cases. In the majority of the cases, the machine learning are providing better sources of information just to make better decisions and more informed decisions.
Thank you. Here we have another question that it's in reality it's like two questions in one. It's what type of companies should address analytical transformation? And then he adds, when a mid-sized company is growing, when would be the right time or the signal that show us that it's time to address this?
Well, the first question is, I think any sector can apply the analytical transformation, no matter if this sector is from the three major sectors, agriculture, industry, or services. Any of these sectors can apply or can improve their business model, their performance by applying the analytical transformation. If you're thinking about the agriculture, you're thinking about industry or services, which in the developing countries is 75 or 80% of the GDP, but I think any sector. And answering about this, the growing of the company, I think as early as possible you have to start applying these approaches. In some cases, there are some startups that are growing, but since the beginning, since day one, they are based on, or they have the foundations of an analytical company since the beginning. So this is a very important. It's some cases to study and some cases some approaches to follow, because some of these companies, new start companies, in a high percentage, they are based on data. They are based on analyzing data and taking some new values from the data and trying to deliver new value propositions to the marketplace, no matter if this is an innovation, this is a new product, this is a new service layer with clients, and so on and so forth.
Wonderful. Yeah, so it's easier for them, for those companies that born that way, and they don't have to implement that at the middle of the road, but something that they begin with that. Sure. Another question, it says, in the 80s, only large corporations had access to market data based on customer behavior, for example, through specialized companies that charge a lot of money for this information. Today, with tools like Google Analytics, even a small shop in a town could take advantage of it. Do you think this will happen the same way also with analytical transformation?
Yes, I think that any business, no matter what is the size, has access to data and tools to develop their own business. And sometimes you have these big factories that can process your data, and for a fee can provide you with some answers to improve your business. So I think the first thing is that, as I said, the commitment of and the vision of the owner, of the leadership of the company. And I think that, yes, you can start taking advantage of these approaches, because we have this analytics as a service, and the market is talking about this approach since like a few years ago. But analytics as a service is like is an approach that especially for small and medium-sized companies that cannot develop internally the whole factory of analytics, but they can take advantage that subcontracting part of this development outside the company for a fee.
Wonderful, thank you. And now to wrap up, and because it's almost, well, it's 11:01. Last question that we have, it's how long could it take an analytical transformation plan to get implemented?
Well, that's a great question. I would say that it is difficult to reach the 100% implementation of an analytical plan, because once you have reached some level, you're thinking about the next level, because I think that it's a never-ending approach. But I would say that for the first roadmap, I would say that something between 3 and 5 years, at least to achieve the first objective, is a good horizon just to planify the first roadmap. It's a rolling roadmap, of course, because you are moving the targets, you are learning from your current developments. But I would say between 3 and 5 years, depending on the size of the company, depending on the complexity of the markets and the clients and the value proposition. But I would say between 3 or 5 years could be a good period of time just to implement a robust and complete analytical roadmap.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Juan Carlos. I think we finished on perfect timing. It's 11:02, so we'll leave you now. And thanks to everyone that attended today. I just remind you that on Thursday, we will have the second session at 9 a.m. Eastern time, like today, same time as today. And we will share also this video and the presentation just in case you would like to share it with your colleagues. Thank you so much, Juan Carlos. It's been a pleasure having you with us today. And thank you, Altair, for your kindness and sharing all this knowledge with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks. So goodbye, everyone, and see you on Thursday. Thank you. Goodbye.